Hey Yorktown, it's Supervisor Matt Slater. We're here for another installment at the John C. Hart Library as we celebrate Black History Month here in the town of Yorktown. We're joined by two of our great librarians. We have Allison and Marka, and we are here to talk about some of the new, or not new, but other pieces of literature we have here in the library that, again, focus on Black history as we celebrate this important month. So I'm going to turn it over to our great librarians. Allison's going to talk about some of our literature for our young adults and adults, and also Mark is going to talk about our literature for the children of Yorktown. And again, you can always access our library services online or through our porch pickups, and I'm sure you're both going to talk about some of the things that we can access today. So again, why don't you take it away, Allison? Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, my name's Allison. The first book I wanted to bring is a young adult fiction by Nick Stone called Dear Martin. This story focuses around Justice, a top student in his class, captain of the debate team, and set to attend an Ivy League school in the fall. In this novel, Justice is studying Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and wants to know how his teachings would hold up today, so he decides to keep a journal to Dr. King to find out. One day, while driving and listening to music with his best friend Manny, his future plans are drastically changed. They get into an altercation with a white off-duty policeman who doesn't like their music. Words fly, shots are fired, and in the media fallout that happens after, it's Justice who comes under attack. The second book that I wanted to mention today is The 12 Tribes of Hattie. In the 19th century, during the midst of 2 world wars and the Depression, a great movement of people, some 6 million African Americans, began fleeing the Jim Crow South and moving up north, drastically changing America's landscape. Hattie is the main character, one of those people. She's a complicated woman raising a large family in the midst of the Great Migration. The story begins in 1925 and leads to the 1980s. The 12 Tribes of Hattie follows the overlapping, interconnected stories of some of Hattie's children and what's to become of their lives as they grow up in an unforgiving world just trying to get by. This is the first novel by Ayanna Mathis. This story is less about the Great Migration and more about a mother's loss, the toll it takes on her, her children, and the future generations.
Hi, I'm Marka. First, I want to tell you about the story of Ruby Bridges by Robert Coles. This is a true story of Ruby Bridges, who was only 6 years old when she found herself the first black child to attend an all-white school. At that time, black children and white children went to different schools. Each day, Ruby had to walk past angry people carrying signs saying they didn't want black children in their school. Even though this must have been very scary for young Ruby, she would get up every morning and walk to school again, showing courage and dignity beyond her years. Read this story to find out how Ruby's school year turned out. And my second book is Zora and Me by Victoria Bont. This story takes place in Eatonville, Florida, which is one of the first all-black towns incorporated in the United States, and is also the hometown of Zora Neale Hurston. This story begins with Carrie, Zora's best friend who narrates this story, and Zora, a riveting storyteller whose latest tale is about a murderous half-man, half-gator who prowls the marshes nearby. When a body is found by the railroad tracks, the peace and security of this small Florida town is threatened. Zora believes she knows who the murderer is, and she tells anyone who will listen her theory. Best friends Zora, Carrie, and Teddy search for truth and justice. And along the way, they also learn the power of community, love, and pride. And if you enjoy this book, there are also 2 more, which are The Summoner and The Curse. And this is a picture of Zora Neale Hurston, an author who I read when I was younger, and one of my favorite books is Their Eyes Were Watching God that she wrote. So when you get a little older, you can try to read some of her books as well. So I also wanted to tell you about a few programs we have. Saturday, tomorrow at 10:30, Amy Hirsch will be doing Rock and Roll for Little Ones. So if you go to yorktownlibrary.org and click on our calendar, you'll see all those programs and more, and you can register. Also, Monday, if you're off of school looking for something to do, we have Music and Movement with Lori Cohen at 11 o'clock. So I also want to tell you about a partnership where we have with Yorktown for Justice. They're doing a community art project where they're going to make a quilt for Black History Month, because quilts were used in the Underground Railroad to signal when it was safe to move slaves to where they could be free. So tomorrow, Saturday the 13th, between 10 and 12, you can go to our porch and pick up fabric squares to make a square and bring back to the library on the 27th. And for more information about this great project, go to yorktownforjustice.org. And I also wanted to just remind you that besides the books we talked about now, this cart will be out on the porch between 10 and 5 or 10 to 7 when we're open late. And you can come and browse any of these books. We have biographies and lots of great things for Black History Month, as well as Chinese New Year and new and fiction and nonfiction.
Great, thank you very much. And again, as we said last week, knowledge is power, and so we have some really great pieces of literature, both fiction and nonfiction, that really help people understand and gain perspective of what some of our fellow neighbors and Black Americans have gone through, some of the struggles, some of their triumphs, but it's also really important always to understand the perspectives of others. So this is a great way for all members of our community, from our children to our young adults to also our adult neighbors, to come and learn about and celebrate Black history here in the town of Yorktown. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day.